Welcome to the Tale Slate. I'm Ben Stacey, and I am here with John Mokedanz from Everything Pop Culture, and Michael Oakes, YouTuber and fan of comics. And today we're talking about Captain America: Civil War, which is coming out really, really soon. So let's get right into it. And John, thoughts on what you know of Captain America: Civil War, or what you're expecting, what you're hoping for?
Well, it's basically a division over Bucky, and Captain America wants to protect Bucky, and they want to bring him in, and either bring him in or kill him, because they think he's a bad guy. So that's where the main crux of the story is, and it's a division of who's on side A and who's on side B of the Avengers, and they do battle. So that's as much as I know about the storyline.
Michael, thoughts?
It's pretty much what he said. It's much of a division between two different sides. The main side, like the main difference between the two sides, is whether or not heroes should be registered as people. Like whether or not the government should have control. Now, there's issues and good things about this. It came from, in this case, I'm pretty sure it's coming from the Bucky storyline, because Captain America kind of feels like he wants to keep it under the rug and deal with it on his own time with some resources, and whatever happens, he'll just like not even take responsibility. Not that he'll put it that way, obviously, but it seems to be that, like you've seen in the trailers, they do wanton destruction with a bunch of stuff. Hell, the entire last movie with Ultron was completely the Avengers' fault. And they basically destroyed half of an entire city and could have potentially destroyed the entire Earth. They took responsibility for nothing. They may have helped to rebuild, but like there was no repercussions at all. So that's where the biggest part comes from. It's basically either register the hero so that they can actually take responsibility from with the government, or they don't and they just continue to not take responsibility but have more power in helping to stop people. Now, the other problem with there comes from what happens if you decided to just go rogue, which is the case with Bucky. You know, like how are you supposed to keep that under wraps if his identity is completely secret? Nobody knows who he is, and now he's doing a bunch of stuff and he's going rogue and a bunch of stuff. So you really need to either register this guy or like kill him, or do something. So I'm excited. I'm kind of hoping that they do something with this movie that they didn't do with the Marvel, with the Batman versus Superman. It was supposed to be a divide, or at least I was hoping for it was a divide between opinions, and they would resolve the opinion and then join together to go fight somebody else. They kind of swept that last bit under the rug, just said, okay, let's go fight somebody else without even resolving issues. So I hope that they actually resolve the differences between them. Now, as far as which side is right goes, that's kind of the question. Because they said in the comics, it's kind of like they're kind of between the two. So they're kind of putting Tony Stark out to be a bad guy, but eventually kind of he has a point. In this, it's kind of like Captain America is the main villain, or main guy in this. You know, it's titled Captain America. So it might be that he's on the right side this time.
So, do you think the movie's going to spend a lot of time on the idea of whether you should be registered or not? Or will it go, that's sort of the idea, and that's what we're fighting about, and then just go for the action? Because that is a really interesting idea. Should you be registered? I mean, that goes back to all sorts of things, whether it's you can go back to World War II with the Nazis, wanting to make sure the Jews are registered. Something like Donald Trump wanting to,
or
even want to register Muslims in the United States.
Or it's like the mutants.
Or the mutants in X-Men,
in X-Men, that they wanted them,
I mean, would you want to be registered if you had superpowers? I've got to register with the government and listen to what they say.
Well, let's for a second assume that all governments and all comics automatically are the best people on the planet, because obviously they're never the good people. They're almost
in real life either.
They're almost always the guy that do things for themselves all the time. Now, assuming that they are the good people in this situation, again, they're not, but and people register, and everybody registers their identity. What happens if another Hydra incursion comes around? Like we had an entire movie where like the majority of the government was taken over by Hydra and supplanted, and now they have control of a bunch of helicarriers. What happens now if Hydra ends up taking all the identities, if that or another government or like organization takes the identities of all the people? because they're supposed to be only with the government, like the identities. They're
Yeah.
not released to the public or anything, right? So you
But
could
there's always a hacker.
exactly right.
So-
You can never have a database of hero identities without there being a risk that all the heroes will lose their loved ones and other stuff. Which is where you know, a lot of the Spider-Man movies had that issue. Can't reveal his secret
Yeah.
identity because, you know, Aunt May or somebody else might get hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that issue.
My hope, I don't think it's going to be the case, is that they would really focus on that issue. But I have a feeling that'll be just the background, and then they're going to go action.
I think that you're right with the action part, but I think that the issue is going to be resolved because of how much action there's going to be.
Maybe.
Well, I think I'm hoping that this is the Avengers movie that we didn't get last time, because the last movie was terrible. I didn't like it.
Yeah, I didn't really like it
I
either.
thought it was just.
I thought it was a very stepping stone for introducing Thanos, I think it was.
I know, but the thing
That's
is,
the problem with a lot of the
they
Marvel
keep on
movies.
trying to introduce him and introduce him and
Yeah.
introduce him. I mean, like, how many times are we going to see Thanos sitting on a meteorite?
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things where it was terrible.
They keep making movies to set up other movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Winter Soldier is a direct setup for this as well. Like,
Yeah.
So
we're hoping this is the last part of the setup. You know?
Yeah.
We're hoping it's not a setup for something else.
Yeah.
But I think the part that I'm really excited for, the reason I think this movie's going to pay out is because you've seen the trailers. There's people who have done stuff that completely it's over the line. Like you've seen. What was it? War Machine get shot out of the sky. That's over the line. So, assuming that's someone for the other side.
Yeah.
You know, that's crossing a line there. You don't shoot somebody out of the sky like that, and he could potentially be very hurt, and that's probably what the main divide is between them. So I imagine the movie's going to be like this guy crosses the line, and because he crossed the line, the other guy crossed the line, and then eventually you're going to end up with somebody going so far that the entire issue has to be resolved then and there. Otherwise, you're basically going to destroy the planet.
Do you think you're going to have a clear side that you're rooting for?
No. That's the whole point of this movie. There's no clear sides. There's benefits to both. Again, you can't register without there being a risk, but having people wanton destruction without any responsibility is not the solution either.
Do you think you're going to find yourself seeing certain characters that you really, really, really like on the side that you find yourself not sympathizing with? You know what I mean? Because it can be. I mean, it's a good thing because you want to like a character, but if they're doing the things you don't want them to be doing, it's kind of.
Well, the thing is that I find interesting with this as well is they're introducing a lot more characters. They're introducing a lot more superheroes, and they've hinted at. But you know, you've got Black Panther in this story, and we haven't seen an origin story for him. You know, there's other characters that are going to be thrown into the mix.
Now, there is a movie for Black Panther coming out later,
Yeah.
so that might be the origin story there.
Oh, probably.
Now, I'm glad that they're not doing a bunch of origin stories.
No, they shouldn't do
Yeah,
it.
they-
It
No,
has
but
to
what
be
I'm
its
saying
own
is
thing.
it's.
You're throwing in characters you don't know and you're not going to care about.
Well, that's kind of the where I see it could potentially be a problem because, again, with the third Spider-Man movie where they had thrown so many villains into it, and you're going, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, just have them fight one guy or two guys, but.
Yeah.
I think they had a good idea for the multiple villains. I think they went about it the wrong way. I think
Yeah.
if they actually had like the villains maybe fighting it out or something like that, or any way but the way they did it. I think there's ways you can do it. I definitely think they did it wrong though.
Yeah, because it's going to be very interesting because these are superheroes that are doing battle against each other. It's not there's a common villain or a common enemy and.
Well, I think that's kind of what makes this movie going
It
to be
is.
great, is the fact that
Yeah.
there's no common. Now, I do believe that there's actually going to be a villain in this one. I think it's Crossbones or something like that. I can't tell you for sure, but I know there's going to be a villain, which they might end up fighting. But I don't know. I'm kind of a little bit torn that some of the characters are on the side I would not expect them to be on. For example, Black Panther, I would have kind of thought he'd be on the the side for no registration.
And is he on the side?
Yeah, he's with Iron
Tony?
Man. He's with Iron Man for a registration. So I would have thought he'd be on the other side because he's the king of Wakanda.
Isn't what's her name, Black Widow, on Tony Stark's side as well?
I think she is. I think that's
I
kind
wouldn't
of.
have expected that either.
See, they kind of show that in the trailer a bit of like she's only on that side for like I don't know 1 or 2 reasons, and like
Well, they show her on that side when they've got that shot of like the group of them charging against each other.
Yeah, but like there's also a shot where she's fighting Hawkeye, and they're like, okay, this isn't actually real. Like, are we still friends? It's like, yeah, it depends on how much you hit me. They're actually playing around with it, so they know nobody's actually going to get hurt, or they think nobody's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And I think that they're kind of just like, all right, well, we got one on each side, so we'll play it out until somebody wins, and then we'll just, the other person switches and the other guy vouches for them. I don't think that they're taking it as seriously as everybody else is.
Right. But
so
you think it will become more serious, obviously.
Yes, absolutely. Again, like War Machine gets shot at the sky. That's huge for Tony Stark. He's going to do something about it.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to get like a step up every time, but. I don't know. I know that Spider-Man is going to be on the side of Iron Man.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have expected it, but I know it because of the comics and a few other things.
And the trailer went, Underoos!
Exactly.
There he is.
I think there was one other. I think there was Vision I saw on the side of the registration, which was weird. I believe again, he might have been that in the comics as well, but it's kind of the way they put him up in the last movie, the Avengers, Age of Ultron. He was more. For freedom and life and other things, and the registration is the complete opposite.
Yeah.
But he is fighting for them. So we don't know. See how it goes.
So Spider-Man, last thing I guess we should talk about is Spider-Man. When he appeared in that trailer, you go online, and people were talking more about how he looked and the fact that his eyes, sort of iris kind of thing, like Deadpool's did, than about whether the character is going to be good as a character. What's more important, how he actually looks or how the character actually is?
Well, I think that a lot of the time, like the Spider-Man's been done a few times. We've seen different dimensions of him doing certain things. So they've definitely shown you different types. So I think of the actual personality of the Spider-Man, as long as it's good, is not as important as the way he looks. Because you mentioned Deadpool. The main difference between the eyes for the Deadpool and him is that it seems that Spider-Man's are mechanical. Which is...
But to me, I don't care. Like, that's kind of cool to look at, but I care that as long as the character works within the story, that's all I care about.
Well, it's a way to show expression as well. So it's something that they can utilize that they didn't do in the other films. I mean, they certainly did it in the comics.
But it's a lot easier to do that.
Yeah.
You can show big eyes going up, without having to explain it, just like its expression at that point.
Yeah.
But I do like the fact that they put it then in. But that might actually hint at something else aside from him just being able to express things. It being mechanical, there are certain universes where Peter Parker is not mechanically inclined. For example, the 3 Spider-Man, I can't remember who made those. He wasn't as inclined with making things as the new one
I think my son was saying that Iron Man actually developed this concept.
Exactly, which is
using Stark tech.
Yes, which is huge because again we know that Spider-Man is going to be on Iron Man's side, so it could be that he made his suit, but it's also known that Iron Man actually makes an entirely mechanical, basically an Iron Man version of Spider-Man's suit in the comics, and he makes it the entire thing, and it's like a big thing with like a backpack that has like spider legs and a bunch of things, and he got little repulsors and stuff. So that might actually be shown in the movie. If not, it could be a lead up to it. But again, if Tony Stark is making his suit, there could be a bunch of different stuff in there that we don't know about yet. So there could be a lot of excitement with Spider-Man's personality as well as the whole how the suit is being built. So
yeah, well, the thing is too, it's kind of interesting because we've got these divisions with different studios doing this, and Sony's lent Spider-Man to Disney for this film. So it's and Universal lent the Hulk to Disney as well. So they just got to get those rights back from Fox, and they'll be all happy.
I find that amazing with any properties that are from books or comics, and when the rights are in different places, it's it's infuriating if somebody wants just to see a good story that, oh, I can't mention this
Yes,
person because
political stuff.
because of the rights. Yeah.
No, unfortunately, that's actually how the comics began, right? It wasn't all DC
exactly.
and Marvel,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
They were all different
bought
people
up,
making.
Yeah, exactly.
So they all collected together. The only issue is now it's kind of like the same thing. Different movie studios decided they want to make something out of it, right?
Well, yeah, because originally the comic book companies went, oh yeah, you want to make, yeah, we'll sell you the rights. To
Yeah,
Spider-Man. Oh,
exactly.
we'll sell you the rights to this. Oh,
And now
like
that
to
they're
do our
actually-
own.
Exactly.
Oh, crap, they have the rights. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they can't, now they got to do the same thing with the comics that they did, with just culminate them all together.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. Anything else that we should mention about what we're thinking about, looking forward to with Civil War?
I was interested in one particular part. There was a part where, what was that woman's name? It was the woman with the red witch powers.
Oh, is that
Scarlet Witch, that's it, thank you. Her in particular, now I know that there was a certain love affection in the comics between her and Vision. That could be showing through the trailer a little bit, or the movie, because you actually see a part where it's a very one-on-one between Scarlet Witch and Vision, but it's an aggressive one. It's Scarlet Witch is basically holding the Vision down with her powers, which is a feat on its own. I mean, if you've seen the last Avengers movie, like Vision is pretty damn powerful.
Yeah.
So if she's holding him down, one of two things are either happening. She's really powerful, or he's letting her, but something might develop at that point, because again, they're on opposite sides, right? So if they fight, they might actually kind of end it together.
Yeah, I'd like to see her develop more, because I thought she did a really good job in the Avengers. She was the only character that I really liked about the last Avengers film. I thought.
She's really the only one you could kind of relate to a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, losing her brother and everything, yeah.
So there was empathy there, right? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah.
And she's again on the side that like non-registration, so she's got a lot to fight for at that point. She's probably the most invested in the cause, aside from Captain America.
Yeah.
So
Oh, well, it should be good. So, we assume we're going to have more to talk about before it comes out. We'll definitely have more to talk about once Civil War does come out. And, just keep watching here for more.